Time once again for the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. I'm Soren Petro here as we talk a little Andy Reid press conference. I don't want to call it bizarre. I don't want to call it odd, but I am trying to figure out why it was held. But at a reason, we'll get to what it is. Was it more about Bieniemy, more about Matt Nagy? We'll talk about the other teams interviewing any candidates for their offensive coordinator. The Chiefs seemingly interviewing one. We'll talk about that. Does this mean it's the same old, same old? We'll hear a little bit of Andy Reid. The latest on the hirings, what it means with Joe Brady going to the Bills, Mike McCarthy to the Steelers. Maybe we'll get into the conference championship games, take away from that. The other head coaching hirings definitely are going to be a topic. We're doing it right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on the Red, Gold, and Bold. And Sam, I guess let's just start with this. You were part of this press conference as well, so I'll start with you. Why was this called? Why was this done? I had a couple people tell me today that they did not remember this being done when Matt Nagy was hired. What was the purpose for this Monday press conference from Andy Reid to seemingly announce and address Eric Bieniemy being hired, but spend a lot of time talking about Matt Nagy?
Well, I mean, off the top, I'm never going to criticize the Chiefs for giving us more access because I've been begging for it for years. So I feel like we need more of this, not less of it. My best guess is to get it out of the way. I mean, you have to address this at some point that you've made this change in offensive coordinator, and so my best guess is to get this out of the way. But let's face it. I mean, there's a growing sentiment across the league of what the Chiefs offensive coordinator position entails, and more importantly, what it doesn't entail. And I think Andy Reid is doing his best to change that narrative. But even as he attempted to do that, he said something that really stood out to me where he said, and let me find the quote and get it exact. He mentioned Matt Nagy moving on and getting another opportunity. He says, and that takes my name off of it, and he gets the purity of it. That's commentary that there's outside perception that this is Andy Reid's offense. But then twice in the same quote, he said that Matt Nagy gets to run his own show. That's the reason for the perception, is because this is Andy Reid's show. So that might be the outside perception, but it's the accurate outside perception. So I think it's running uphill to try and change what other people believe that the offensive coordinator does here, when in the same press conference you said you're still going to call the plays.
Yeah. What did you think the purpose was for this, Jeff?
I think part of what Sam is saying is true. I think part of this is Andy is very cognizant of the OC job for the Chiefs has not been what it probably used to be. And by that meaning you just lost a guy who's getting blamed for the offense, and you're bringing back a guy who failed as an offensive coordinator when he had a chance to fly the coop and do it for himself. So he's, on the one hand, I think, Eric Bieniemy brings a ton of positives back to this franchise, but there is some explanation you have to make about why you would go that route. I think Andy Reid is very cognizant of that narrative being out there of what are you trying to gain? What is this offense going to look like? And he may be getting ahead of Eric Bieniemy facing the same stuff that Matt Nagy just went through. and what Eric Bieniemy went through the first time around, which is you're going to get blamed for this, and I want to make sure I'm at least out ahead of it this time. But I think he also probably feels a certain sense of responsibility. I'm sure he feels a sense of responsibility for Matt Nagy not having a head coaching job, the way this season went, and he's trying to do as much as he can to help that process improve for Matt Nagy. And I always go back to Andy Reid came up under Mike Holmgren, who was very loyal to his assistants and always tried to put them in positions to succeed. Andy Reid was an offensive line coach throughout his career, and Mike Holmgren made him the quarterback's coach when Brett Favre was a quarterback, and Andy Reid got a job out of it. And so I do feel there's a lot of goodwill trying to be created by Andy by doing this. But it certainly is strange happening to have a press conference for this kind of hire.
I think it was because I think this is one they're going to do another one. And he basically called it off and everybody adhered to it, not asking questions about the other moves that they've already made. And that's usually when this would all happen, is when you put the whole coaching staff together, right? Okay, here it is. Now let's have a press conference. I'll answer all the questions at once, so I don't have to answer about this one, answer about that one. That's how Andy Reid would usually like to do it. This is why I think this was as much or more about Matt Nagy than it was Eric Bieniemy, at least from my perspective, because this is not the way he is looking to talk to us as few times as possible, while at least talking enough so that it cannot be perceived as he's running from us, right? Like to Sam's point, we'd like to have more with Andy Reid. We'd like to have him available for longer when he is available. We'd like to have him available more times. This is out of character for him. So why is he doing it? I think the reason he's doing it is because Matt Nagy had one real chance at a head coaching job. Now there were, even when there were four, and Joe Brady was listed as the fourth or fifth favorite by the betting market to get the Bills job. He wasn't listed on any one of the last four amongst the odds makers. Like nobody was giving him a shot to get any one of the last four jobs. Now the Bills have been filled. We're down to three. Okay. His name is now also not being listed. I'm not seeing anywhere where he's being talked about other than the Eagles, right? For offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I've seen the Eagles link for sure. Yeah,
you would have assumed the Titans, but they've now filled that with Brian Dable. It would seem like that would have been a great place for them to double back. Okay, we didn't get him as a coach; he hadn't got a coach job. Now we'll take him as OC. I think this is a guy stepping in and trying to help his guy out. I think it's probably the timing of it is more about Matt Nagy. The cover fire for it is the Eric Bieniemy conversation he did ultimately need to have, but this was he made it about Matt Nagy. And you made a great point, Jeff, and how you put it about that position is not getting the acclaim that it used to, and it's not the springboard that it used to be to another job. That's an indictment on him.
Yeah.
I mean, is this a little bit? I don't want to call it a panic move, but like I need to sell Matt Nagy to verify to myself that what I do offensively is still very valid and coveted in this league. I mean, this is a statement that the league is not coveting what's going on with the Chiefs offense near as much as it used to. Is that fair?
Yeah. It's collateral damage. I mean, any guy who comes through San Francisco or the Rams these days is considered the next budding offensive genius. And you've now got two coaches who've been under Andy Reid over the last, in that position over the last, what has it been, 7 years now, 6 years since Doug Peterson left? I can't keep track of it anymore.
2008. Well,
2008.
Yeah, well, I mean, Nagy got the job the first time, right?
Yeah.
And when he got the job the first time, it was 2018.
Yeah. And so neither one has been able to create a lot of buzz coming out of here, and they've both been nixed for being under Andy. And I see people in the room bringing up the fact that, you know, somebody reported, or Matt Derrick and Nate Taylor reporting that Matt Nagy was calling the plays and Andy could overrule. I have a hard time believing.
I don't buy it. I had Derek on the radio today, and I didn't want to pick a fight, but I don't buy it.
Yeah, I think this has always been Andy Reid's offense, and Sam can speak to it. Sam's around as more than any of us are. It just feels like the way Andy has set this up, and maybe he's becoming more aware of it, that, hey, you know, when you go up there and you're not really being that expansive, or you've got a lot of cloak and dagger around how this whole operation works, and everybody gets to be involved, but I still like having fun calling the plays. It's just, he could end this very easily and say, I call the plays. Mm-hmm. The guys who do that in Sean McVay's offense seem to do just fine when it comes to getting jobs.
Yeah. The play calling is not the end all be all. I'll tell you, and it's the same thing we heard Andy Reid call the plays. It was the last few games of Doug Peterson's tenure as the offensive coordinator. Then he's telling everyone Doug Peterson's calling him. He goes off and gets a job. Did the same thing for the last few games when Matt Nagy was set to fly. I'm sorry. Others may swallow the hook. I don't. I'm not buying it. Andy Reid calls the plays. I know there are also times I've been told, trust me, Andy Reid's the guy. Andy Reid's helping his guys out. I'm not for a second do I buy that in any, was there a play here or there where he's like, I'm working on this, you got the next 3, or hey, here, this is your series. Yes, I'm sure there's been a play called by Matt Nagy, but to call Matt Nagy the play caller right now is simply rewriting history in an attempt to get him the job, get him a job right now. I don't buy it for a second.
I remember back when it was Eric Bieniemy's last year in Kansas City, and he was going to have to. It was at the combine. He was going to go to Washington, and I had asked Andy Reid about just the fact of, it's not clearly defined what your offensive coordinators do here, and part of this is because he doesn't just come out and say who's calling the plays. Remember the Titans game, which was Matt Nagy's last game. I'm talking about the Alex Smith start against the Titans in the playoffs that they collapsed. It was Matt Nagy's last game in Kansas City in his first stint, when somebody had asked him about who was calling the plays, because Matt Nagy had called the plays at some point whenever the Chiefs had struggled over the middle of the year and ended up being like 6-6 or something after a really good start. And Andy quipped he called the good ones and I called the bad ones. And look, that's protecting your coach, but it also leaves this cloud of mystery. And that cloud of mystery followed Eric Bieniemy for the longest time. And it's why I don't think it's the sole reason. I don't know that he interviewed really well. I think there's some other stuff, but he did walk into interviews. And one of the first questions when Eric Bieniemy walked into interviews, same as when Matt Nagy probably walked into the Titans interview, although Borgonzi knew him, probably was, what exactly do you do as the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, let me ask you this, Sam. I mean, putting it out there now that Matt Nagy called the plays in the worst offensive year the Chiefs have had, it's not helping. It's not helping. If anything, it would be seen as scapegoating him to protect yourself.
Well, except for Andy Reid thinks that this offense was good last year. I mean, that's another takeaway from this press conference that he had is, he doesn't think that they're stagnant. He mentioned that they were top 5, which, look, there are definitely some metrics that before Patrick Mahomes went down, they were top 5. Those 2 metrics are not yards and points, which are, I am as into the metrics as the 3 of us, right? But I'm not going to prioritize anything over points and yards. Those are 2 pretty important metrics for an offense. And so I've never known Andy to be the guy who says, yeah, but ignore the points and yards. Look at where we are in yards per drive. Look at how frequently we get into the red zone. Look at how many points we have per drive. Look at how few drives we had this year. I'm sure he's aware of that stuff, but I'd be curious to know what he's grading that on. And so my point to say this is, I don't think he does feel like if Andy Reid had suddenly put this out there, I think he's crediting him, because I think he thinks that the offense was better than the perception was.
Yeah. What do you think, Jeff? I mean, is this? I have this for later. I'm going to bring it up now. What does it look like when a coach starts to slip? Right? Because, yeah. I think I've always described it as it's when you start believing your own BS. It's when you quit looking for the answers and you decide whatever you want to be the truth is the truth, right? Like when you bring in Chris Holt to come, give you the nuances of running the pistol back in the day, you're still looking for the answers and you're ready to. You're like, okay, teach me and I'll take it to the next level. What do you got? Okay, now let's take it to here, right? Like when you start having to, doctor the numbers and say, well, we're really the number 10 offense. Which when was this franchise bragging about being 10th? Well, when you're really the number 10 offense, because the last 3 don't count because Pat was out. Like they weren't 10th when Alex Smith was the quarterback. Okay, they were better than that. So bragging now about 10th with Patrick Mahomes is I think missing the bigger point that the erosion. I think some of this is potentially if they go 15-2 and they're the number 2 offense in football. Much ado about nothing. You guys were you needed something to talk about. Fine. I'll listen to it. I'll wear it. But I think it's legitimate, when he's 68 to start looking, I'm going to be 68 next year, start looking for, okay, are we seeing any signs? This does not feel like the normal approach to me.
Yeah, all this stuff. And the thing that got me was top 5. Wasn't top 10. He's a top 5 at one point.
Yeah.
And I think later on it was, I forget what the question was asked about, he had some comment about, we have all this technology and we don't have to go out and find the coolest new thing and something else. I was like, that sounds like an old dude who is starting to move away from reality. And like Andy Reid is, he's one of the best coaches to ever do it. He doesn't have to defend himself about anything in terms of his success and what he's accomplished. But yeah, there is a point in every great coach's career where you do begin to lose your fastball. And I think all these things, this confluence of things happening, the EB hire, the press conference, where Matt Nagy's perception out there, the stubbornness about the stats, I don't see this offense turning around dramatically next season. There may be some tweaks and improvements, but the way that this has been built and the way his career has played out, Andy's not stupid. Andy knows his legacy is set here. And no matter what happens moving forward, he's done the best job ever as Kansas City Chiefs head coach. And that is going to be what drives him moving forward. Everything he does moving forward is going to be about adding to that legacy. And he's not adding that legacy by admitting, I was wrong. I'm not as good as I used to be at offense. I need help. Saying he needs help is not what's going to happen here now. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah, I mean, publicly, but internally, and I know you're talking about publicly, Jeff. But, internally, I mean, when we sit here and analyze what the Chiefs need to do better, the steps they need to take in order to improve their offense, and in some cases to fix elements of their offense, like we're a step ahead of the conversation we're having right now, which is because the first step is acknowledging that it needs to happen, acknowledging that you need to improve, acknowledging that the scheme needs to improve, acknowledging that there are things to fix that are beyond just injuries, penalties, drops. Like those are three things that every team, the Broncos led the NFL in drops this year. Like you can overcome drops and still be a winning football team. The Chiefs drop percentage, Patrick Mahomes' drop percentage as a quarterback was about 10th in the league. You'd rather be, 32nd. You'd rather be the quarterback that had encountered the fewest drops. I don't think any of us, even with the Rashee Rice drops, the Travis Kelce drops, I don't think any of us thought if this team caught the ball better, they would have been a high-flying offense that would have been the best or second best offense in the league this year.
Yeah, I think it is, to me, look, if it's all his way of trying to paint, this is why Matt Nagy's better and get him there. And behind closed doors, they're like, lots of work to do, guys. Roll up your sleeves. Okay, then it's all fine. But I don't like the tone of the way it's being presented right now here. It does not seem to be acknowledging the problems.
Can I tell you, there was one quote that did fall in line with that, which he commented about how excited he is to get in the offseason and get going. And he said, we didn't do very well this past year. And I'm going to fix the problems that we had in all phases. And I think that was like his most honest moment yet, that there's some work to be done this offseason. And hiring Eric Bieniemy, it's not that you couldn't do stuff before, but you'd like your offensive coordinator to be part of those conversations. And I do think there was some excitement to sort of ignite that process.
Yeah, I think that's
and I will say, as much as we discussed Eric Bieniemy, that's one thing he'll do. He's not going to BS about where the offense is behind in that room. Like he gets to evaluate it from an outside perspective. And there's some things, especially when he watches that running game, where he's going to say, you guys stunk this year as a running team. And the league is progressing towards running the football more effectively because of the way defenses are playing.
Yeah. And we'll see if they do have that. That. Again, you're right. And that's the important part, that they get it, that they have those conversations where they need to have it, where they can actually affect change. All right, we'll take a break. We want to come back. We want to get into a little bit of what some of the other teams are doing as far as the coordinators go. Does this mean it's same old for the offense, or will we see real change? We'll do it after you hear from Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk a little bit, not interviewing anybody else, right? This is all in on Eric Bieniemy, Jeff. I mean, and how much of this is a sign that it's just going to be more of the same offense, that there really is going to be no change. The fact that he said, that's my guy, I know him, I'm going to bring him back in.
Well, again, I think we've all pointed this out. There are positives here for Eric Bieniemy, and I do believe that Andy Reid probably thought, the penalties, the way Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are looking, the running back situation, that I think Eric Bieniemy is going to help all three of those categories in one way or another, just in terms of attitude and professionalism and expectations. But yeah, I do have a hard time just with the idea of you didn't want to look outside for anything. That and he said he talked. I also don't buy that he had these multiple interviews. I think he may have made some phone calls and thought, hey, who do you like or whatever. But to sit down and formally say I talked to this guy or that would have come out somewhere along the line. Somebody would have leaked it. An agent would have said something about it. I think he wanted Eric Bieniemy, saw the possibilities of it, knew that Eric would probably want to come back here because it's a promotion for him. And look, the Denver Broncos were playing the AFC Championship game. They just fired their offensive coordinator. The Los Angeles Chargers made the playoffs second straight year. They just fired their offensive coordinator, who, by the way, was coaching with a diminished offensive line and a quarterback who broke his hand for the last, 6 games of the season. I mean, it's
Eagles too, Jeff.
Yeah, the Eagles too. Yeah, so there's a lot of teams who are not sitting around waiting to see what happens. They're moving forward and trying to do better. And so, again, I love Eric. Known him a long time, but this wasn't an inspired hire. I'll put it that way.
Same old for you, Sam, or no? Do you see that there's more to it? Andy, and we'll hear a little bit of Andy here in a minute, but seem to point towards, you don't have to bring in people to change. Like he seemed to say, I got this. I know where we need to go.
Yeah, I mean, he basically said that you can watch these teams on TV and gather the intel you could by, bringing in one of these coaches from the outside. I mean, I just think we heard a lot about where Andy Reid thinks the Chiefs are and where he thinks this offense is from this hire, which is he thinks they're close. He thinks they need tweaks, not a transformation. And it's why I'll underscore it one more time, like I attempted to last week. But whatever you think of the Chiefs offense, blame Andy Reid for it or credit Andy Reid for it, because all this talk about the offensive coordinator with Matt Nagy and what his offensive rankings were, and with Eric Bieniemy and what his offensive rankings were, and Doug Peterson and how they were with the offense then, it's Andy Reid's offense. And him talking the quotes I mentioned earlier about Matt Nagy and his departure, and then bringing in Eric Bieniemy and saying you're still going to call the plays, it's just a reminder that, same as it's always been, it's Andy Reid's offense, and that's where you should point. Whatever direction you think this offense is trending, the arrow needs to be pointing at Andy Reid for it.
Yeah, he's ultimately going to be the guy that's responsible. I want you to hear a little bit of Andy Reid. This is Sam's question. Is how he opened the press conference. He asked Andy Reid when he noticed, the fire, the emotion, the things that Eric Bieniemy brings. When did he realize that he needed that?
Yeah, well, I thought Matt brought great energy too with his. It's different. It's a different. They both have their own personalities that they share with it, and EB does. He's going to be very direct with the players, very direct with the coaches, and it's a different flavor. Both have been very productive in this system here, so I think it's a win-win for us that way. But EB brings there's nobody like EB on the field that way. That's one of his, and with the players, he does a great job there.
What was your reaction to that, Sam?
Well, this is the tightrope that he had to walk when you have a simultaneous press conference talking about a former offensive coordinator and a former, now new offensive coordinator, is that you feel like your words are always going to be interpreted when you compliment one guy as saying the other guy didn't do it, which, by the way, I don't necessarily think the media does that. I don't necessarily think that is the reaction when you compliment one player to say, okay, no one else in your building does this. But I think he's scared that that's going to be the perception whenever he says something. And so, yeah, it was just, I thought the entire press conference kind of had that manner to it, to where it is he's trying to walk this tightrope. But when he circles around and says, but yeah, there's nobody like EB on the field, that's his real answer. Right. Is he feels like there's no one like Eric Bieniemy on the field in terms of, somebody in our comments pointed this out, and I saw this clip coming around as well, that the Troy Aikman clip. Did you guys watch that? It was circulating on Twitter. It was after Jimmy Johnson had left, and it's part of that Cowboys documentary. And Troy Aikman is bitching on the sideline because he feels like he's got to police the entire team because Jimmy Johnson's not there to play the bad guy, and Troy Aikman has to play the bad guy.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've heard that clip. Yeah,
yeah, I know the one. I've heard it in the past. I didn't see it today, but I know what you're talking about.
There is saying, do we really want our quarterback, especially if the tight end could be retiring? Do we really want our quarterback telling Xavier Worthy where the sideline is? Do we really want, our quarterback being the one to remind guys that they ran the wrong route and that's a big deal in training camp? I think they want Eric Bieniemy being that guy.
I think it's a great point. Did we ever see Tom Brady, Jeff, have a problem doing that, though? How many times do we see him over there lighting up on the sideline?
Well, I don't recall Bill Belichick having a problem doing that, which is the bigger question here. Like, that should be Andy Reid's job. Like, you got to go find somebody to do that for you? Like, if you do – and look, Andy, again, I want to make it clear I'm very respectful of what he's done. But part of the problem here is he's looking for people to take on these roles that I think he should be doing. And by the way, if Matt Nagy's so great, let him call plays, Andy.
Yeah.
If he's that great, let him call plays. Let the offense run through him. Let's see how it looks. But he doesn't want to give up that control. And we get so caught up in that he likes doing it and he's been great at it. But you're trying to sell a coach to somebody else by saying, well, he's really great and all this. Well, if you're really that comfortable with him, then let him do it and see where it goes. Because that would really allow us to understand what's really going on behind the curtain.
I'm with you. I mean, to me, the answer needs to be, I'll call the plays because I'm the best at it.
Yep.
Like, I mean, that's
exactly. Yep.
I've said this, and when you have all the success he's had, I think he's been the best at it. I think it could be fun for him, and he was the best at it. He may still be, like I said, 15-2 this year. What he might need is his lieutenant to go kick everybody in shape. I will, to your point, yeah, it'd be great if he were the guy to whip everybody in shape. You mentioned that we'd probably see Belichick do that. But there's also something in understanding what your limits are and saying, well, that's just not me. I'm not coming out players see fake. And so if he recognizes I can't go regulate, but I got a regulator over here, and I'm going to bring him back in, and he's going to do it, then more power to him for recognizing what he needs and that Eric Bieniemy has those skills.
Yeah. But he used to be that way. In Philadelphia, he was that way. He had plenty of fights with players in Philadelphia, and he was not always beloved because he got rid of guys early and fought with them on contract negotiations. He has it in him. He just doesn't want to be that guy anymore.
Or maybe he had it within him.
Yeah.
I mean, Dick Vermeil talked about the different how he adjusted as he grew older. Maybe this is him shifting gears. And listen, I think we all agree Eric Bieniemy may be the perfect hire for this team. We're going to find out. They're going to play, right? The question is just, we're analyzing it here before the fact. The games will tell the story when it's all said and done. Accountability was the thing that Patrick Mahomes talked about. One of the main things he wanted to see from him. That came up. I asked Andy Reid about, that part of it, that Patrick Mahomes looking for it and Eric Bieniemy being that guy.
No, I think Pat probably said it best right there, is that we've always had accountability here. With Eric or without Eric, it was still, you're responsible for certain things. And so whoever's coming in better be feeling that. And there's a certain standard that you're going to hold each other to. And I'm sure that's what Patrick was, without quizzing him here, Soren, I would tell you that's probably what he was saying.
That's part of it, Sam. I mean, I think this is your tightrope again, right?
Yeah, it's I have the exact same reaction to it, is that he doesn't want to criticize Matt Nagy, but I will say that's not what Patrick Mahomes said. He did not say that the team has consistently been accountable. In fact, his quote said that, you have to continue to evolve and get better, and that's something we'll try to do here. And I want to get back to that winning culture of being accountable to each other. So I do think Patrick Mahomes was commenting on what they were lacking, while Andy Reid's trying to say it's something that they've always had, and that Eric Bieniemy will also bring it. So yeah, I mean, it's the same reaction. I mean, it's the difficulty, I think, with what he was trying to accomplish with threading a needle there.
Yeah, that to me, that was that. I get why he's trying to do it, because I mean, I think that goes back to, like, we don't want to make this like we're showing the negatives of Matt Nagy here, and I don't understand. I mean, I think it speaks to the view of Matt Nagy. I don't want to say the weakness of his candidacy, because I don't think he's a weak candidate at all. But I think there's a view that, like, that time's kind of come and gone. We need to go over here with him, and Andy Reid's trying to prop it up. But I mean, it's okay.
He really needed him to get the Titans job.
Yes.
How much smoother would this whole thing have gone if Matt Nagy had been promoted to a head coaching job in the NFL?
You don't have to say anything about Matt Nagy because he's already got the gig. You can just celebrate all positives of Eric Bieniemy. Absolutely, it was, and he's walking the tightrope's the perfect point. He can't do it. I want to. This is Sam's other question. I want to bring this up. This came also early when Sam asked Reid if he interviewed other candidates.
No, I did talk to him. EB was in the playoffs, so I wasn't able to talk to him until after he was done there. So, but had to make a move fast. There are a lot of openings here, Sam. And so, yeah, if one guy's going one direction, you got to make sure that you can fill that position and do it as quickly as you possibly can. So, at the same time, was still being able to talk to others. So, to answer your question, yes, I did talk to other people.
Interview.
Well, I mean, did he talk to Brett Veach about this job? I mean, I just think Talk To was doing a lot of work there.
I think I was gonna say, wasn't EB like the first OC hired about the OC openings? I feel like there weren't many others. I mean, there's still a lot left.
Yeah,
McDowell just got the job. Daboll just got the job. I mean, how many? There was like 6 or 7 jobs left as of like 2 days ago.
Yeah. There were a lot of them. There were a lot of different people out there, and in some ways, it's like, I'm trying to think. It was there. There were coordinators. There were playoff coordinators fired. You think that you might have some interest in them, along the way. I mean, he set the tone when at the end of the year he said, "I know a lot of people in this league," right? Yeah. Like we knew where this was going, and it went exactly where we thought it would. It went with a guy that he knew, and a guy who's been very successful and won championships. So
well, I also love it. We had to move fast here. Like, nobody else was going to give Eric Bieniemy an OC job. There was plenty of time to make this move.
I mean, he would like you to believe that, but I think we all agree, because he's been available for OC jobs. He was available last year, didn't get one, and he was available. This was the one place he was going to get the OC job. All right, let's take a break. We'll talk about Joe Brady, Mike McCarthy being hired on. Is that a problem for the Chiefs moving forward? We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222. Or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's talk about Joe Brady going to the Bills, Mike McCarthy going to the Steelers. Jeff, does either one of those hires, you think, it significantly improve those teams from where they were last year?
I would say no, but I also understand both hires. Like, I mean, for so long, people have been searching for that offensive genius who's primed to go be a great head coach. I just don't think there are that many guys left in that category. I think Ben Johnson was the last really no-brainer. He can come in here and change the game for you type guy. And everybody else that was around this year was not in that category. And you had a lot of really good head coaching candidates, but Brady makes sense because the way things went down in Buffalo, that job became really unattractive the more the owner talked. And so it was either going to be Brian Daboll or it was going to be Joe Brady. And I thought Daboll was the one who made more sense because he has a head coaching experience. You take a chance elevating an assistant coach, especially one who's very close to Josh Allen, who's never done it. But I think the positive there is you keep the offense intact. Josh Allen doesn't have to go through some kind of big contortions to move forward, and hopefully you can find a good defensive coordinator. McCarthy, I don't think anybody was going to make that situation better because that's a jacked up team with a quarterback issue that's aging on defense.
Not just me, Soren.
Sam's our resident Steeler hater, but I mean, you look at it on paper, that team at best has probably got maybe a year left of being able to maximize TJ Watt and Hayward and those guys.
Welcome.
Yeah. So
I'm actually with you on like say I was like, boy, nobody hates Steelers. Curtis, we talked about this on the radio, and Curtis said, damn, the Ravens don't hate the Steelers as much.
That's right.
Hates the Steelers, so that's where that's coming from.
Yeah. But I think McCarthy's underrated. I mean, he's won in two different places. You know, they could do a lot worse than him.
I do too, and then like if I were Mike McCarthy and they sit down like, okay, guys, okay, Mike, what do you think? Where do we get started? Well, we blow the whole damn thing up. Like that's it. We get what we can for Watt. We start shipping guys out. DK blows. Like let's see if we can get that cap off the books. Like we're chopping it up. Like whatever it takes. Like let's go find our quarterback. It ain't Aaron. Unless he wants to work super cheap, but I want to look for somebody else as well. Let's try to find our Sam Darnold while we're looking to draft our Patrick Mahomes. Like, this ain't it, boys. Like, I'm hoping, but I guarantee you he got that job because they're like, we're close. We don't take a step back. We're the Steelers. Yeah, I hear you. We'll get it done. We don't need to. I mean, if they blow it up, I'll be like, okay, like they know what they're doing. But I think that we're finally going to see the Steelers fall with this one. I don't see where the McCarthy thing. I think Mike McCarthy's going to do a good job, but it'll probably be the 9-8. I mean, it's just going to be more rinse and repeat. His coaching chops will keep them above their talent, which will not allow them to get more talented and do what they need to do to get better. I mean,
I'm not sure how many teams in this cycle have gotten better with their head coaching decisions. And Jeff mentioned the fact that, you know, a lot of these hot names, offensive names that people are looking for weren't out there. You know when they were out there? They're out there last 3 years. And to me, so much of this Bills thing that's confusing to me, it's why when we asked, hey, did the Bills make the right move about firing Sean McDermott, I kept saying it depends on who they hire. If they had done this move a year ago, they could have hired Ben Johnson. And how much better off would they be? If they had done this move after the 13-second game, they could have hired Kevin O'Connell. They could have hired Liam Cohen or Mike McDonald last year. Like, there were better names, I think, out there over the past 4 years. All years where I think it would have been totally reasonable to make that move with Sean McDermott. Then you make the move and it's like, well, what now? You interview guys who pull out of the interview before you schedule interviews with coaches who pull out before the interview even starts. Like, that's what other people are telling you what they think of your job. And I think it would have been a much more attractive situation. And it's almost like these teams consider this decision of, do we want to keep the coach without considering, okay, but then what do we do? And I don't know that did the Dolphins get better? Did the Steelers get better? Did the Bills get better?
I think the Steelers might get better to have an offensive mind, like thinking offensively first. I think there's potential for a dead cat bounce, right, with the same roster for Mike McCarthy to, you know, just view it through a different lens and maybe get there to, you know, have that kind of surprising 12-5, which is kind of like 11-5 was in the day. It's, you know, somewhere between that and 12-4. Like I could see that, but ultimately the roster has to be overhauled in Pittsburgh. I mean, to me, like they're one of the teams, like when people say, well, who's the worst team in the NFL? It's usually the aging roster of the team that just made the playoffs, right? Because they still got to get bad before they can start getting good. It's not the team that's bottomed out. They know they suck. And so it's like, okay, foundationally, let's redo it. They're still trying to tape it together. I think you make a great point, Sam. I don't know how many teams did get better. Now, there's plenty of teams that are good, and we think there's going to be a bounce back. Like, I don't think Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes are all not making the playoffs next year. I don't think the Patriots are going anywhere. The Texans clearly have some things figured out, even though C.J. Stroud, I think, really has a ceiling. I don't know about you. Like, one of the things that I think is coming out of this is like the middle class quarterback is making a comeback. Like they're actually starting to get, Baker Mayfield has done good things with Tampa, and now Sam Darnold at a $14 million cap hit and a $33 million APY on a 3-year contract has got his team in the Super Bowl. And so I think that is concerning when you're Patrick Mahomes, because if good quarterbacks are not going to be paid good wages and not over the top, like Kirk Cousins being overpaid dooms that team. Dak Prescott's paid too much. What do the Texans do? Does this
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Does this empower the Texans to say, CJ, you're Sam Darnold, you're not Pat Mahomes, so we're going to give you 34, 36, 38 million. Then I think that could make it a little bit more difficult, because then those teams have good quarterback play and more to spend on their roster. That to me is one of the things that is kind of poking out of what we've seen, at least with how the playoffs have played out to this point, Jeff.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I've said before, is that there's really a sentiment in a lot of corners of the league that there's only so many Josh Allens and Lamar Jacksons and Patrick Mahomes to be had. And if you're able to build a great roster and take some chances and really manage your cap well, you look at Seattle, and it's really underrated the job John Snyder did, their general manager. That DK Metcalf trade looks a lot better today than it did when it happened. People were wondering why you're trading your best weapon. The Rashid Shaheed trade, obviously the deadline was huge for them. Going and finding guys like DeMarcus Lawrence and Ernest Jones and Cooper Kupp, guys who were kind of, cast-offs for one reason or another. And they realized we can build something and build it in the most competitive division in football. And yeah, you're right. The middle class is changing again, but it's changing because a lot of these guys are cycling through. Like, all these guys who were in this middle class were guys who were top picks, who were trying to get big paydays. And the team said, no, we can't take the chance. I think you're going to see more teams saying that now, instead of what happened in Dallas with Dak Prescott. We can't lose the quarterback. What are we going to do? Or what happened in Miami. We can't lose the quarterback. What are we going to do? Well, if you're going to get rid of him, or he's not going to win you championships, what's the point of doing it anyway?
Yeah. To me, that is a big part of it. And we'll see. And the coaches, but I mean, to Sam's overall point, is there one you would pick that you do like, Sam? Like, you think, maybe not better. Like, Baltimore's one. I know, like, we've got Sam in the comments, says he likes Jesse Minter higher in Baltimore. The problem is you had John Harbaugh, so to be like, you're almost. I know we all think John Harbaugh can coach. It was time for a change and so forth. But did Baltimore make the best decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was time in Baltimore, and I think Baltimore's head coaching hire is going to be very dependent on their offensive coordinator. I mean, you've got 2 defensive-minded head coaches in the Super Bowl, but look at their offensive coordinators. Like, they have guys that have figured something out with Kubiak and McDaniel. So I think Baltimore could be in a good spot. I know that a lot of people probably will point to the Giants and say, wow, the Giants are in a great spot. The Giants are going to be better because they do have talent. I thought the Giants' job was decently attractive because they've got defensive line, which is where you want to build your defense. They've got a top flight wide receiver who was out for the year. It looks like at least some things could progress with the quarterback. I mean, I think, but I also don't know. I mean, we're sitting here talking about Andy Reid, and Jeff, I think it was you who said, all coaches lose their fastball at some point. Can we be sure that John Harbaugh still has his fastball? I mean, he did just get fired, and that didn't come out of left field. It didn't surprise any of us that he got fired.
Where do you sit on Harbaugh's over in the NFC? But I mean, I think it's a relevant point. My prediction is he's going to do well. Like, I think he's like Dan Reeves left the Broncos after he was starting to get up there in age, and and he got sideways with John Elway. He took the Giants to the playoffs. They soured on him pretty quick. He took the Falcons all the way to the Super Bowl. I expect something like that with John Harbaugh. What do you?
I think it's a good chance for the Giants to take because it will certainly raise their floor. I'm not sure I would say their ceiling is Super Bowl.
Well, and I think it raises them to like being legit. I mean, like you mentioned all the teams that no one will talk to, Sam. Like the Jets are one that people are like, I don't want that job. The Giants at least are now a legitimate franchise again, right?
Yeah, well, and he also brings not just legitimacy, but they've tried to hire. It's been 3 straight offensive coaches, right? It's Daboll. It was who's before Daboll? Was it the guy who had the bad suit a few years back, the Green Bay guy?
Well,
Eli was still there.
Well, they had Joe Judge though. Which
Judge was in it.
Special teams
was
coach,
weird. It was just a run of just really bad coaches. We'll just call it that: offensive, special teams, whatever. And so Harbaugh walks in with, he brings a lot to the table in that regard. But I've talked to people out east who said he's going to have an adjustment because he's been in a small market for a long time and been able to push people around. And the minute he has any kind of issues with the press there, it might be a lot more distractions involved in it. The good news is I think they need a CEO type guy. They need a real leader walking in the room and making it happen. They've done a good job with personnel, which I was going to go back to the Pittsburgh thing. The thing about McCarthy there that's really weird is that their GM is doesn't have a scouting background. And so you're asking guys to rebuild your roster, a guy to do that who doesn't really have a lot of personnel experience. Now, Mike McCarthy's probably going to have a big say in that, but at least John Harbaugh's walking into the Giants feeling like, okay, I know what I've got here. I've got talent. Jesse Minter, to the questions, is definitely, I think, the best hire so far because he's a guy who's a young guy who's had success. He's been in that organization. He's a defensive guy, so he understands their philosophy. He probably understands what Lamar needs. He probably will find the right coordinator. His dad's a head coach who's been a head coach in college for a long time, so he's got somebody to give him advice. It's a lot of things about that hire that makes sense. And so of all the guys who I think who are going to probably be, I think he's got a lot of Mike McDowell in him. And when Mike McDowell went to Seattle, nobody was saying, oh, my God, this guy's going to win a championship in a couple of years. Like Jesse Minter could be that kind of guy in Baltimore.
I think the Salah-Dable combination is pretty strong. I think when they landed,
that's a good one. Yeah.
I think a lot's going to depend upon his
Ben McAdoo
for real, huh?
Ben McAdoo. Tommy called it. Ben McAdoo was the guy for the Giants. I was trying to remember.
Ben McAdoo. Okay. But I think Salah and Dable, you get 2 professionals. You got each guy can handle their side of the ball. If the quarterback's right, then they could be really good. If the quarterback's just then they'll move on from him eventually, what have you. But I think that's an under the radar. There's quality coaching there at Tennessee. Anybody else pop for you, Sam? Or is that it?
Across the NFL, I mean, I think Kevin Stefanski's a really good fit for the Falcons and Atlanta. I mean, when we're just talking the AFC, I agree with Jeff. I mean, I think Jesse Minter is the one that, from a Chiefs perspective, would be the one I'd kind of maybe say about. But he's also replacing a guy who had a great run. I mean, regardless of how it ended, the Chiefs competed with Lamar in his peak with good coaching. And that was good defensive coaching. I mean, Mike McDonald came from there, and it was good head coaching. And so I do think that's probably the best hire in the AFC.
Cardinals, Raiders, Browns, 3 worst franchises in football that they're still sitting there. Is that what we're looking at, Jeff?
That's a part of it. Yeah. I mean, if you're somebody who's got options, you're not going to jump right into that pool because you're not going to last very long, and you're probably going to be tainted for the rest of your career. See Josh McDaniels it's a perfect example of that. But yeah, they've all got ownership issues. They've all got quarterback problems. As much as Tom Brady is revered, like I still want to see him be able to actually run a franchise. It's real easy to talk about it on TV or to say you've got the answers, but it already feels like that situation is getting worse by the day. And I just don't know. Again, the coaches they're going to get for that are coaches who probably aren't going to be able to succeed at all.
Yeah. Tommy, shocking, is riding my ass. 2 years ago, Soren was making fun of Robert Salah. Now he thinks he can coach. Hashtag looks like his shirt's too tight. He is jacked. I do have my questions, as people know, although McVay's shirt's pretty tight too. Like I think Andy Reid has backed me up. It's a lot of time in the weight rooms, a lot of time you're not watching film, but I guess maybe now you can work out and have the film going as well. But I think the difference that I will say now, Robert Saleh's now had a job and failed. I think he learned from it. I think everybody's better the second time around. And he doesn't have Nathaniel Hackett. Okay. That's my point was it's the combination.
Yeah.
It was just Robert Saleh and some wide receiver coach from somebody else. I would not be saying I like this as much. I think the fact that, number one, he doesn't mind having Brian Daboll in the room, a guy who's a worthy head coaching candidate, shows a maturity there, and it shows a plan. I mean, I think it's it's the combination. I didn't mention just Robert Saleh. I mentioned them both. So from that standpoint, so we'll see. We'll see where it all goes. We'll see. When do we think Eric Bieniemy is supposed to be made available as we sit here and record on Tuesday night? Sam, he's supposed to be made available tomorrow. You think that happens?
I know it happens at some point. I think probably tomorrow.
Soon.
But
Tomorrow,
certainly at some point. Yeah.
And when do we get the press conference about all the other coaches, or is there even one? Is it just addressed when we all get to the combine?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a combine thing, or again, I mean, this is like bonus content for those of us that have been covering the Chiefs for a long time.
This ever happened? They've tried out this many coaches?
Not since I've been on the beat in 2019. So, usually, the going line is the fact that, hey, once the season ends, then it's Brett Veach, for the combine, the draft. I mean, that the post-draft, that sort of thing, and let Andy get a break. But I mean, him, like I said, if he talks twice before the combine and the third time at the combine, I'll take it. Yeah. I'm not going to complain. I'll take it.
There it is. Listen, you can always support the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast by supporting our great sponsors like Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Kansas City's best since 1994, whether you're building a parking lot from scratch or if you just need striping, signage, bumpers. They do it all. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. And Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers are Northland Injury Law. They've been serving KC for more than 40 years. Voted the #1 accident lawyers. If you've been hurt in an accident, a fall, something at work, in a car, you have a case, text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. Tell them you heard about it right here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.